Fury, did you watch Andor?
I did watch Andor. I'm getting flamed online by the Disney fans.
For not loving it?
Yeah, for not loving it, but also just like, why the fuck was there like a sexual assault scene? And I thought that was just off-putting in Star Wars. And I'm a Sopranos fan. It's my favorite show, and there's a lot of that shit in there.
I think it's perfectly reasonable, especially now that we've got, 8 to 10 different series that we've seen. Some live action, some more than that if you count all the animated stuff. And they're coming out with all these different movies. I think it's perfectly reasonable to make shows, whether it's just one targeted like very little kids, like that stupid little young Jedi adventures, whatever it is. I also think it's okay to do a Star Wars show targeted towards a more mature audience. I do think that there's maybe a line where in terms of, look, if Bix had her tits out, first of all, I would have loved to see that. But if Bix had her tits out and she's being brutally fucking raped, like I said, if this was like a Game of Thrones level type of scene, I could understand why there's some like backlash and outrage. But to me, it wasn't even, it was kind of like a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
Because we saw an Imperial officer attempting to force himself on someone. He got killed for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So you were like shocked when you saw that?
I was just like, why? The dude is some creepy ass rapist trying to take her from behind and do all this. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think that really. When I think of Star Wars, I think of like the first 6 films, and I'm like, this is just kind of out of place. I feel like if there's other ways that you want to portray this guy as some evil doer, then yeah, you could do that. But I think taking it to that level I don't think it really belongs in film Star Wars, at least not yet. I mean, sure enough, in Legends and in the comics, yeah, okay, but I just don't think that that's something that I think what got a lot of people angry with my tweet was that I said Vader wouldn't stand for this, and these fucking idiots are like, "Well, Vader kills kids. He would totally." It's like there's levels to evil. Like just because he kills people and kids doesn't mean that he's going to full on assault a woman in a sexual way. It's just very strange.
I mean, he did choke Padme while she was pregnant with his children.
He did, but he didn't force himself on her.
Right, choking good, raping no. That's where Darth Vader draws.
That's where we draw the line.
I think that I don't know if I think that Vader would want his troops acting if he felt like it was interfering with their like on the job and that they were not doing what they were supposed to do. If it was making them more like less efficient, I think he'd have a massive problem with it. I guess my other thing is just because Darth Vader does exist and is in the power command structure of the Empire, do you think that every stormtrooper and every Imperial officer is on perfect behavior because of the threat that Vader might potentially hear about something in the future? Because that's not the way I perceive it at all.
No.
Obviously, the people under his direct command are probably in fear of fucking up in any way, any possible time. But I don't think that extent, like this Imperial officer who's stationed on this backwater fucking farming world, right? Who all he sees are people that look like fucking inbred hillbillies and shit all the time. And some hot undocumented immigrant comes in and starts working on a field. And he's like, hey, you rub your back, I'll rub mine. You look like you have strong hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most of the troopers haven't even met Vader, to be honest. So half of them probably haven't even seen him. The other half probably just like mostly heard about him, with like a few being like, "Oh shit, I've actually seen the guy." So I think it was just a scene that like everything George did was sort of implied. Like he just cuts away, like with Leia. Okay, she's in the slave outfit. Jabba licks her. That's it. He's not like grabbing her from behind, trying to like roughly take her and stuff like that. And she's fighting back. Like it's just weird, Anakin killing the kids. He doesn't actually kill them. You just see the lightsaber ignite.
Have you read the novelization for Return of the Jedi? It was written in 83.
Yeah.
So in that, they take it a little further and like
she's passed around and shit, or like it's alluded to that she's passed around.
It's alluded to that's what's going to happen, right? And specifically, even that sequence, like when she has, I have very powerful friends, Jabba, and he's like, I'm sure. He's like, I'm sure, but until they get here, I'm gonna make the most out of my time with you. And he doesn't just lick her; he fucking puts he sticks his tongue out and fucking kisses her full on in the mouth in a beast-like way, right? The way it's described. And then he has her change in that outfit because Jabba has a fetish for humans, which is a little bit unnatural for Hutt. He has a fetish for human women, and he wants to be able to lick her without tasting the sand from her clothes. Right. So that type of, I guess to me, that's almost more graphic or anything, at least even though it's just kind of alluded to in the movie, like you said.
Yeah.
That's kind of right there too.
It is.
And I do think it would be different if we watched a rape scene. I 100% think that would be different.
Well, for sure. I don't think anyone would argue on that point. But a lot of these Andor fans are like having an issue with the fact that I just don't want to see that. Because there's a big, wouldn't you say that there's a big difference between live action and comic or book?
I think there's a difference. There can be differences sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think it's, like I said, I'm not some big Andor fan or anything.
No, I know you're not. I know Mahler is. I'm excited to see what he's going to say tomorrow.
Mahler loves it. I already told him I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on a controversial scene. He hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So. I'll be interested to see what he thinks too. But
are you on open bar tomorrow?
No, I'm not on open bar.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see the reaction. I think that from the reaction I've seen in kind of our space, I feel like I'm in the minority when I'm saying this doesn't really bother me at all.
Yeah. I feel like all our mutuals are like, what the fuck is this?
Yes. I feel
then like every Disney Star Wars fan is like, yay, it's realist. What?
Well, I think a lot of this too has been kind of blown out of proportion by the articles talking about how brave it was for them to depict something like this. And I think a lot of people are being like, oh, why do you enjoy watching rape? Or why are you celebrating rape? I don't think that's what they're doing. They're celebrating, displaying how sexual assault is bad. Okay. So I just feel like a lot has been lost in it.
I just feel like it doesn't need to be in Star Wars. Like if it's in The Sopranos, 100%, yeah, fuck. But it makes sense. But in Star Wars, I don't know. I've just never seen a scene like that George did. Sure, in the books there's writing, but
yeah, those novelizations, as we know, with those, like,
I think it for sure happens in Star Wars. I think that's a lot of the arguments people are making is that I don't think it exists. Well, of course it exists. I mean, Star Wars has some of the most grimy, villainous beings in the galaxy, but
now if we get to the point where Bix is showing off the goods and all that stuff, I think we have a different conversation.
I don't think anyone would be having any opposition against that. No, I know that it exists in Star Wars. I don't think that's the issue. I think just seeing it just took me out a little bit, but to each their own. It's not really a big deal. But as always, if I say it, then it's a fucking huge deal. It's a big problem.
Like, one question. So sexual assault, I understand what you're saying about your feelings about it in Star Wars. What about sex, period?
How graphic are we going with it?
I'm not saying like, I don't think it has to, I don't think it has to be like fucking full frontal or even involving tits or whatever. I'm just saying sex and sexuality in Star Wars.
I think you can keep that stuff at bay. I think what George did with, making out scenes it's like the extent of it, But I think having like what we had in Andor, there was a sex scene in the first season. I feel like that's kind of,
I don't know, man. You mean it was implied that they were about to have sex?
Didn't they? Didn't she like take off all her clothes and?
She basically went over on the bed and started taking off her boots and stuff. Yeah.
But okay, maybe I remember it differently.
And then they woke up the next morning, like another scene happened.
Oh well, that's not a big deal. That's not a problem. I don't think that's an issue. I think, I'm warming up to the fact that you're saying that this show is just like totally different, and I get that it is, but at the same time, it's still within Star Wars, and I feel like why are we deviating so much from how George shot shit, which is implied? It's like, okay, we see them like get to the bedroom, close the door, change the scene, or whatever, or the kids are there. What are we going to do? There's too many of them. Lightsaber ignites. Next scene.
I understood its purpose in the story and what they're trying to show, and I just didn't think it was anything. Even if they hadn't, even if he had walked in there and he had said, I need something from you, whatever, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to tell anyone. And she's like, no, no, please don't. Please don't. And she like backs away as he advances towards her. And then they cut and go to a different scene.
That, yes.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. But it's the same, right? it's the same thing. It wouldn't be the same if we saw him bending her over and starting to fuck her and like ripping off her clothes. Like that, it wouldn't be the same if we saw an actual rape.
He was getting close.
Like I don't understand.
Took her from behind. And he was like grabbing her and doing shit, and then she like got off, and it was getting there. He was about to get. She didn't get that pipe, man. It was on its way. But yeah, if it cut, it would be the implied. Like, yeah, okay, that. All right.
Would you have rather we see that they cut away and then we see the aftermath, basically him walking out, like zipping up his tunic and her just like laying there on the floor, like
no, that's fucked up too. No, that's fucked up.
Why? It's just implied.
No, that's too much.
Because I think that it's less offensive to see what we saw than that, even though that would have all been implied.
No, we don't need to see that.
So to me, I guess, because I feel like the point of this show is to show people how the Empire affects people on a very micro level, not macro level, like blowing up a planet, not macro level, like seeing a bunch of random, nameless, faceless Mon Calamari enslaved or Wookiees enslaved.
Right.
It's very much trying to get very personal, and that is about as personal as it gets.
You're right with that. Yeah.
You couldn't, if you took this scene out of the show, I don't think I'd be like, I really miss that scene or whatever. But I don't think that it doesn't belong in the story, if that makes sense. It's not a very like huge declarative statement, but yeah, do you
feel like they could have done something different without putting that in there? Or do you feel like it's just, you're whatever? It's not a big deal.
I feel like they're trying to show different ways that the fucking Empire is as fucked up as you could imagine to people in their day-to-day lives.
Well, I mean, shit. I mean, like, look at The Walking Dead, when you got Negan lining everyone up, like they're like a family, essentially, lining them up and then just bashing their brains in with a bat with fucking barbed wire on it and spikes or whatever. I mean, that's fucked up. Like, that makes you hate the character.
You know what would have made that scene even more fucked up? If he raped Glenn.
Damn. I knew you were going to say that shit.